Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Saturday morning live stream here on the channel. And, hey, welcome back, guys. It's been a while. It's been a minute since I've actually gone live here on the channel. I usually go live every week within our Govcon Gold Rush group, and that's kind of where I took things. But I wanted to kind of reconnect within the fourth quarter here, you guys. So today we're probably going to go longer than I ever have. Probably going to be going 2 to 3 hours this morning. I'm hoping to catch different people in different time zones. So we'll probably just give it a minute. If you're here, let me know that you're here in the chat. Let me know where you're from. If you have a GovCon related question, anything you want to talk about. This is just kind of like a chilled, relaxed hangout. I may spend some time over on sam.gov. Look at some opportunities there. I may let you guys know, some of the updates that we have going on, within the community and, plans for the channel and things like that. But we will kind of just take things as we go. You have to bear with me. I'm dealing with allergies this morning, plus just, being a morning live stream. I'll probably be clearing my throat a little bit. Jamal Henderson, what's up, Derek? I've been doing the course. Hey, that's awesome, Jamal. How are you? How are you enjoying the course? What is it that you're currently learning about right now in the program there? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So guys, it is, as I mentioned, the fourth quarter. It is the busiest time of the year for government contracts to be awarded, but that does not mean that you can't win contracts year round. So, some people, I think they kind of get the connotation that you can only bid during the fourth quarter. So I just kind of want to, address that. That's something that's been on my mind a lot lately because I've been talking a lot about, in the videos here on the channel about the fourth quarter. And it's just because it really is go time. If you wait all year for, only bidding within a few months, like that's not the way to go about. But what you should be doing instead is emphasizing and putting a weighting on to prioritize the third and the fourth quarter to respond to bids, whether it's on sam.gov or whatever it is that you're looking at, just because it's the most frequency, the most volume, the most dollars being awarded. Why would you not hunt during hunting season? Why would you hunt during off season, right? And I'm not a hunter, but it's just an example. And then in the first quarter and the second quarters, in the first quarter, most of contracting, they're literally off for vacation. Many of them don't pick up the phone or respond to emails, or if they're doing so, it's taking them a while. So that's probably not the best time, right, to be, hunting or responding to bids, going after things. So instead, and what we teach in the program, GovCon Gold Rush, is you want to, basically sharpen your tools, get things, prioritized, make sure you're targeting or retargeting for the next year the top 3 to 5 agencies that you want to pursue and focus. This means you're visiting the agency websites, you're obtaining the next year's procurement forecast, so you can literally see, certain jobs that are coming out that you want to go after in advance, right? So we can definitely do that. So those are times to, what they say, sharpen the saw. And then once, the first quarter ends and we start to get into the second quarter, Christmas and the holidays are over, New Year's, then, we get into, January, February, March, contracting returns back to their desks for the most part. And then there's an opportunity there for you to kind of start to begin the process of building relationships, and I've talked about it in a few, videos recently. Building relationships, it's, you can reach out to contracting officers, scroll down to the bottom of a sam.gov solicitation and take their email and email them. Even if it's not like a bid that you're responding to, ask for a capability briefing. Make sure you have your capability statement ready to go. And, maybe a few intelligent questions about the agency, right? So that's one way to get in front of contracting officers at your target agencies for the year ahead. As you're in January, February, March, and the beginning of the second quarter, you can start to do these things. You can also reach out to what's known as a small business office or a OSDBU, which means, again, at your target agency, going out after contracting is kind of going in like the back way. You can come in through the front way and go through the small business office and again, schedule a meeting with them called a capability briefing. Okay. And you do the same thing with them. And sometimes they can introduce you to contracting officers. And if nothing else, you want to stay in front of anybody at least probably once a month, I would say, throughout, January through June, the second and the third quarters. So you target these people and then you keep getting in front of them over and over and over again. And you find reasons, not bugging them, but you find reasons. And, we go into a lot of it in the program. But, that's another way to start to establish and build on relationships so that when the fourth quarter gets here, right, then people already know you. You have contacts who are already warmed up. And then when they are putting bids out to bid and you're responding to them, they already know who you are. It's not, it's not like favoritism or anything like that. It's like, oh, no, I know John or I know Stacy, so I'm going to give it to them. No, it's not like that. But it gets you, kind of like halfway there. It's always better to respond to a warm contact than somebody who's cold and just show up last minute, right? That's another reason why we respond to sources sought notices, the 4 stages of a bid, guys. Sources sought, pre-solicitation, solicitation, award. That's why we get in at stage 1, providing that market research feedback during the sources sought stage. Say that 10 times fast. That way, a contracting officer, when the bid comes out in the future, 30, 60, 90 days in the future, they're like, oh, hey, Jamal Henderson or Matt Smith or Schwan Edmonds responded, their business responded during the source of sought stage. I reviewed their capabilities. I reviewed their response, which is, a few answers to a few questions in a short white paper, 1 to 2 pages long, not a big deal, right? And then your tailored custom, or custom capability statement in this source of sought stage 1. Now they've gotten to know your company a little bit. Maybe they've asked you a few questions in the process because you've helped them with the procurement forecast to shape this opportunity going through the different stages by providing your feedback at this early stage again. So when it goes from stage 1 to stage 2, pre-sol, and then stage 2 to stage 3, they already know who you are. They already know that you have shown interest. Your company has shown interest in this bid. And now they are watching for your email. They're watching for you to respond. Wouldn't you rather spend your time, right, doing something? This is why we talk about going deep instead of going wide. Wouldn't you rather spend your time sending something off, creating a response, a bid, doing your numbers, doing your proposal, doing whatever it is, whatever it requires? Wouldn't you rather spend your time doing that for somebody who is waiting to receive it instead of somebody who doesn't even know you're alive or knows your business exists? And then one day you're just going to pop into their email box and say, here's my response to solicitation, such and such. Here's my bid. Did I win? Wouldn't you rather is the question. And that's what this whole thing is about, going deep instead of going wide. All right, let's see here. We've got Matt Smith. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for all the info. No problem, Matt. I'm happy to provide it. I'm blessed to be able to serve. Jamal says, how to read and respond to a government bid. Basically trying to learn good habits and seeing who is spending money with my business. So yeah, very good questions. These are the right kind of questions that you should be seeking answers to, Jamal. So, how do you read and respond? Well, read is you open up the solicitation and you go to section L, instruction to offers. And basically, between that and the video I did the other day on, basically the 7 questions to be asking when reading any bid, I recommend checking that out. But you're looking for some basic things to basically bid or no bid this. So you have to do a bid, no bid capture management type thing for anything that you pull up on sam.gov to see, is it worth spending your time on or not? And you need to do this, relatively quickly, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you'll get better over time of looking at it because you have to look at a lot of these things. So you can't spend a lot of time on each. So, just a few things off the top, off the cuff. You want to make sure that the response date has not already passed or that it is at some time in the future, at least probably a few weeks, that gives you adequate time to respond to it. The next thing you want to check is set aside. Make sure that it is not set aside for a set aside that you do not have. if it is set aside for hub zone, veteran owned, woman owned, 8A, what have you, and you do not have that set aside, then you are not qualified to bid. These are things you want to get answers to right away. And then once you kind of get that initial stuff off the plate and you're checking the box on all those, you're saying, nope, I'm still good to go. Then you're going to section L, which is usually around 3/4 of the way through. It's towards the back of a solicitation document. And you're reading the instruction to offers. What is it that they want in your proposal or your quote response? Okay. You need to be working, start by working backwards, start by working from the end. Basically, you should be reading like, hey, looking for keywords like past performance, technical approach. Is there a pricing table? Some sort of mix of that. What is it that's required in my response? And then again, answer the question, do I want to do this? Am I able to do this? Do I have strong past performance? And they're asking for it. If not, you probably don't have a strong chance at winning. Move on to one and find one that does not require past performance, right? So this is how we read. And then, and you're also talking about, good habits. These are all habits that you should be very well ingrained. You guys, the stuff I'm telling you right now and that I have been preaching for the last 3 minutes, this is stuff you should be doing every day, or at least every time you're going on sam.gov, you're messing around with your search filters, you're looking at the search results, you're reading a title saying, that looks kind of interesting, and you're clicking on it. And then after that, you guys usually drop the ball. So these things I'm talking about for the last 3 minutes, insert that into that time point. Once you're clicking on something, opening it up, make sure you're following these steps that we're talking about. So again, section L, instruction to offers. After that, you also want to go to section M, which is usually the section right after, because it's literally I think it's A through M. So there's literally sections in every solicitation, A, B, C, D, all the way through M. So we're talking about sections L and M towards the back of a solicitation. Whenever I open up, an RFP or an RFQ doc, I always just scroll to the back, okay? And then I start to scroll back up from the back until I get to this proposal requirement type stuff, okay? Let me see if I answered your question. And then in terms of who's spending money with my business, that's USA spending all day, right? So I guess we are warmed up enough. We can do some screen sharing. Let me see here. There we go. So let's go to, USA spending. You guys, you've probably seen me do this. I've done it 1,000 times. Maybe you've seen me do it 100 times. But we go to USA spending. Let me go to the home so you can follow me. Again, what I'm about to show you is spending money with my business. Who is spending money with my business, right? So USA spending, advanced search. We're going to go over all fiscal years. And then we're going to go whatever your NAICS code is. So guys, in the chat, throw me a few NAICS codes. I'll do a few examples. It'll just take a quick second. But I need a few NAICS codes. Otherwise, I'm just going to plug my NAICS codes or the ones that I look at if I don't hear from you. So I'll give it a second. Let me know if you got a NAICS code or not for me. And then what we're going to do once we have that, I'm going to submit search. This is going to populate. And then we're going to go over to categories. And this is going to show us, right, agencies that are buying the most of what we have to sell. Okay. We go into a lot more depth in GovCon Gold Rush on this process. But this is something that you guys can do for free. It's something you can do easily. It's something that I recommend everybody doing. Again, this is, we're talking about good habits also here. This is one of those habits that, you should, especially towards the end of the fourth quarter. Looks like we got a NAICS code suite. When you're planning for the year ahead, whether you're looking at forecasts and other things as well, you want to be resharpening your saw, retargeting agencies to basically do this example that we're about to go to. So, all right, we've got a few NAICS codes. Thanks, guys. Let me start off the top. So we've got Camille Jones, 541430. So graphic design services. Got it. So we've selected that. So hopefully you can see that. And all I did is select all years. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do. Submit search. And again, we're at USA spending. And then we're not going to, there's a lot of good information here. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and, can I turn this off? I'm still answering this question, but for the sake of it not blocking the view, I'm going to turn that chat off for just a second. But there's a lot of good info here. What you're seeing is award spending. Instead of looking at this, I recommend you go to fpds.gov. But what we're doing right now is we're going away from this table and we're going over to categories. So now this data, okay, this is data based off of our NAICS code. All right. This is Camille's NAICS code for graphic design services, 541430. So if we're seeing who's spending the money, again, which is, rounding out Jamal's question here, why would you not start with whoever is buying the most of what your company has to offer, right? If you're in the retail space, say you're a small little bike shop, okay? You sell bikes, okay? Just literally like a one-door bike shop. And maybe you're happy to sell 5 bikes per day or something like that. Like that's a good Saturday. Now, if you find this customer or this group of customers and one of them buys like 100 bikes a week for God knows what reason, and another customer that buys like 1 bike a month, who do you want to spend your time with, right, as the bike shop owner? Of course, you want to be targeting and focusing on that customer that's buying 100 bikes a week for whatever freaking reason he's buying that many bikes, right? So this is the same thing here. So, if we're selling graphic design services, our business is like, yep, we feel good about that. Like if you have anything graphic design, we can get you taken care of, okay? Well, which agencies need that the most? You guys are a match, whether it's Tinder, OkCupid, or Bumble or whatever they are. Like I haven't been on these dating sites in 4 years or something like that. But you got to find a match. So the match for Camille's is by far Department of Defense. Okay. So we're looking at $319 million spending. So what we can do here, since this is the Department of Defense, that's made up of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. So if you go over to sub-agencies, we get a more accurate look on, hopefully you're seeing this. I'll zoom in just a bit for you there. By far, the Army takes the cake. So if you're targeting 3 to 5 agencies, okay, we know one of these agencies, Camille, one of your agencies, if you're doing graphic design, you've got to be spending your time with the Army. Like it's just, there's no comparison. 226 million compared to the second runner-up of basically 41 million, which is the Navy. Okay. So, that's how we do it. That's how we do these examples. There we go. All right. So let me just run these other examples, and I'm not going to do the same explanation. We're just going to go through it quicker so that we can get through them all. But guys, thanks for hanging out with me this morning. You probably weren't here when I started. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being part of the channel. It's been a while, and I've just been honestly dying to get back to doing more lives here on the channel with you guys, just interacting with you. And I like the energy. I like the vibes. I like trying to make an impact wherever I can. I like hearing about your success, and I like, trying to help you with your questions. So I've actually been excited to do this all week. Like this is the thing I've looked forward to all week. So if you're here with me this morning, let's share the love. Okay. Because I appreciate it. And, it's something I've been looking forward to. So the next NAICS code we have is Matt, my man, Matt, 238210. 238210. And if you've commented in the chat and I haven't responded to you, that's just because I'm making my way down. I haven't skipped you or anything like that. So 238210, of course, is our construction NAICS code, if you don't know. So we're doing the same thing. We X'd out our previous NAICS code. We added in 238210 for Matt, and we already have all those years selected. We are resubmitting the search to make sure we don't have old data in here. And let me just go to this table. I'm like always paranoid that it's using the old data. So I'm just double checking. So coming over to categories, because as you can see, it looks pretty similar. So let me just double check this. Yeah, okay, so this is new data. So just like the previous example, Camille's example, now for Matt, we're looking at construction again, okay? Guys, there's a reason why when you hear like government contracts, like military and such is always associated with it. It's just because the DoD is oftentimes the largest spender. So it's almost synonymous, not always, but almost. When you're looking at government contracts, you're considering some sort of military, Department of Defense agency. So for Matt's construction, we've got the, what is it, 238210? Yep, 238210. Matt, man, you should be focusing on the Department of Defense. Should also be considering the VA. I mean, the VA have a lot of hospitals. I've done a $4.4 million, which is small for construction, but I've done a $4.4 million construction job to renovate the west wing of a VA Ann Arbor hospital in Michigan. Okay, that was one of the contracts that I won back in another life. And it was like 20 different trades. You got your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, demolition, like just everything, and as a real GC, a general contractor, it's just, you've got your hands full, and you got to make sure you're not having any near misses. We had one, like, not a good thing. Safety is paramount on, construction contracts, of course. So consider the VA and even the Department of Defense. Looking at the DoD, the Army is still strong, but as you can see, the VA actually comes in second place over the additional DoD agencies like the Navy and like the Air Forces, down here. So the Army and the VA is looking very strong for you, Matt, in terms for construction buyers. Okay. But you're also, guys, and this is for all of you, low-hanging fruit. What agencies are local to you? Do you have any? Do you live in a state where you have a strong presence of the Air Force, the Army, or the Navy, or other non-DoD agencies, Department of Agriculture, Department of Transportation? Any of these agencies could be a good fit for you, even if they're not at the top of the dollar spend. They could be, towards the top of your 3 to 5 target list if they are a bit of low-hanging fruit and there's somebody that you can literally drive and visit and get in front of contracting or get in front of the small business office on a monthly basis. Okay, that's super important if you have that. So we've got Tanya next, 624-229. 624, what is that? 624-229. So this is other community housing services, and it falls underneath healthcare and social assistance. So curious to see how this is going to look. Maybe the DoD isn't number one in this. We'll see. Refresh the data and go to categories. Okay, so we are still looking at DoD. But some of the changes I'm seeing in the variants is Department of Transportation and Department of State. Makes sense, Department of State, right? If you're looking more at like healthcare and social type stuff. So that kind of makes sense. But again, guys, it's just like the DoD is stomping so far. By far, they're in the number one place. And again, it's the Army, but the data is looking pretty strong for the VA, stronger for the VA than it ever has. And then now for the first time, the Navy has made its way to the third place, guys. So you can see how there's variations in this. And believe me, different codes. The DoD is probably not the biggest spender for everything. It is for most. But you will see a lot of other agencies, like the Bureau of Prisons. I see that at the top of the list for certain NAICS codes all the time. I see Department of State high on the list. I see FAA high on the list. And then other, agencies in here that aren't even listed yet, I see those as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at for this one for Tanya. Tanya or Tania, however the pronunciation is. We're still looking at DoD, but we're considering FAA. We're considering the VA as well. So thank you for that one. Looks like Camille had another one, 541611. I know that code. Yep. So we are looking at the professional and administrative types. So we're going to go ahead and refresh, submit search, take out the old codes, and go to categories. Right. So now we're seeing Health and Human Services is number 2. Okay, that's a first. Also, this Agency for International Development, Department of Homeland Security, and GSA. Okay, so that's getting mixed in there. Of course, DoD is still showing up as number 1. Army is number 1, but not by much. Now we have this Agency for International Development as a strong 2, and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid as a strong number 3 for this. And that's even a little bit surprising to me. I haven't seen a whole lot for these 2 types. So probably interesting. Maybe they had some big contracts spend recently. My guess is there's probably been a lot of COVID contracts that are falling into this over the last 12 to 18 months also. So that's kind of, my guesstimate on that. We've got Serena Holmes, 561720. And guys, it's really cool to see you guys in the chat because I recognize so many of you from the comments in the videos. So it's like now I get to interact with you in person, which is pretty cool. So we're doing 561720 for administrative support, waste management, and remediation services. Refreshing the tables. So DoD and GSA is number 1, and then DHS is as a far third. But Army's number 1. But now we have this public building services as a strong number 2, and Air Force, and then the Navy in 3rd and 4th place, and then the VA. So one thing, it's like when you're targeting agencies and you're considering things, it's like you kind of already have an idea of some of the agencies that may show up at the top. And the more you do this, the more you do learn the ones that you see over and over again, and some of the new ones that you don't see a whole lot, like public building services. So, if you're in, the 561720 NAICS code, which is janitorial services, you're considering public building services because does that make sense? Well, yeah, that makes sense that public building services and janitorial services are going hand in hand. Well, yeah, like they're the second place in dollar spend, and only, I won't say by a little bit, but they're creeping up to getting close to where the Army spend is, which is huge. I mean, the Army is huge, so that should help to formulate your strategy and focus you more on what you're looking at on sam.gov instead of looking at things that are random. Because then what? Like what happens? Even if you find something that looks interesting, well, is there going to be more opportunity for growth? Is there going to be a lot more contracts to pursue? If it's something random and you didn't do this type of research, and then it's like, well, there's this one, but then what? What's next, right? With these agencies, there's a lot of what's next. Like if something doesn't work out, or if you win this contract, then you can leverage this contract at this agency to try to get another contract at this agency. But what if this agency doesn't have any other types of contracts and this was just a one and done type thing? You have nowhere to go. Spend your time on things where you can go deep. That way, all the activities you take now are going to pay off for you 1 and 2 and 3 years down the road, and then basically it becomes the long-term game. But if you're just playing it for the short term, being random, nothing ever starts to stack up for you. You don't build relationships. You're not repeating things enough at the same places where the same contracting officers get to know you. You're not learning how the agencies work. You're not learning what type of bids the agencies are coming out with on a regular basis. You need to double down. You need to focus. It's like the devil's in the details, and being random and having an OCD approach or a shotgun approach to sam.gov and just your GovCon strategy in general. It's going to be the number one thing that works into your demise. Because you're basically, like a rat trying to swim or whatever. It's like, I don't know where I'm going with that agency. I heard this thing before where there was a mouse or a rat that was in a tub of milk or something like that, and it was drowning, and it was just paddling. And what happened was it churned the milk into butter, and then it climbed out. So I'm basically saying the opposite of that. Like, you're going to be spending all your energy doing these random things, just paddling, but instead you're just going to like drown in the milk. Like, I don't know why I brought that story up, but that's kind of what's going to happen. Or you could be, maybe that's where I was going with it. Or you could be like the mouse that's doing a lot of energy, working really hard, right? But then that starts to work for you, and then the milk starts to turn into butter, and then you can climb your way up. Be like that mouse. I think that's where my subconscious was taking me with that video, with that topic, with that story idea. It's early, guys. Bear with me. All right. Got another NAICS code, Tanya, or again, Tania, 541870. 541870. And we have to make sure we take out the old NAICS codes. So this is for advertising material distribution services. This is one that's more unique. 541870, submit search. And if you guys have other questions, we'll be finishing with the NAICS codes here. If you have other questions, I will be getting to those. It'll just probably be like a 10-minute delay or something because I'm still getting through the rest of the chat. So 541870. So what are we looking at here? DOD, number 1, Department of State, Department of Housing and Urban Development. And then our sub-agencies, we've got Army number 1, Department of State number 2, and Housing and Urban Development number 3. So that's a new agency to consider that we haven't seen yet. The Army, the State, and Housing and Urban Development are buying a lot of these advertising material distribution services. So, that's another agency or so to consider. Let's see. All right, looks like we just got a couple more to get through. Jamal has 311119. Oh, interesting. This is for other animal food manufacturing. So we're going to submit search. I mean, I'm curious to see this one. I haven't looked at a lot of animal food contracts. So we're seeing, but look at this, like just on this sheet that we haven't been paying any attention to. Look at all the contracts that are going to Tyson Foods. So guys, I know I didn't focus on it today, but go to USA Spending, pull this up, do this, play with this on your own, because there's so much other stuff in here that I haven't even shown you. And these are all contract awards here, and they've got the dollar amount. But man, Tyson Food, it's just winning all these $1 million contracts like crazy. And isn't Tyson Foods, aren't they the ones that make our frozen chicken and things like that? Yikes. Okay, so this is good. Department of Interior takes the first place. So the Department of Interior, for whatever reason, is buying the most, was it dog food or just, yeah, animal food. It's buying the most animal food out of everybody. It's crazy. And then we have Department of Defense. So let's look at the sub-agencies. So we've got U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Okay, so that makes more sense. We've got Defense Commissary Agency, National Institute of Health, Agricultural Research Services, Bureau of Land Management. Okay, so guys, most of these agencies and sub-agencies we weren't even looking at. Okay, they weren't even on the list with all the other NAICS codes that we looked at. This is the perfect example to show why you can't be random and why you need to focus. Because if you were just to assume, the Army and the VA, it was just buying the most of everything because they're so big. Well, no. If you're a business that's looking for the best match, remember our bike example, whoever, you have one person who buys 100 bikes a week and you have one person that buys one bike a month. Who are you going to spend your time with if you're trying to sell bikes, right? That's an oversimplistic example. But for other animal food manufacturing, it's like, who are you going to spend your time with? Well, by far, you're spending your time with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Defense Commissary, and the National Institute of Health. Because if you're not, you got to follow the money. And that's what this means. This is following the money. If you're not following the money, quite honestly, you're probably not going to be successful. Like at the very least, it's going to be a strong uphill battle. So, all right, we've got Natasha Gauss, 561,270. 561, right? 561,270, yeah. Take out the manufacturing. That NAICS code is saying it's not a NAICS code. I thought it looked strange too. Maybe it's 720, 561, 720. And that's janitorial services, and we already covered that one. So Natasha, the 270 one that you put isn't registering as a NAICS code. And if it was the 720 instead, it's janitorial, and we did cover that one earlier. So let's see. We have Bridget, 23323. That one also sounds unique. 23333. Yeah, that's one's not pulling up either. I didn't. Oh, okay. She goes, ignore mine. I was late. That's my zip code. All right. No worries. No worries at all. Yep. We were looking at NAICS codes to do some research. It looks like that's the end of the list. Definitely, guys. Thanks for hopefully that was somewhat valuable to you. Again, you've probably seen me do that in some of my videos. So it was just a live example going all the way back to answering Jamal's question where he was talking about reading solicitations. He was talking about good habits and also basically finding the most spending for your business. And, you know, whenever I'm looking for spending or following the money, the first thing I'm doing is going to USA Spending and seeing where the spending is. So let me hope I didn't want to miss anybody. So circling back, Natasha says, love you and your content. Thanks. Thank you so much, Natasha. Really happy and glad to see you're here with us this morning. And thanks for participating. Bridget says, can you bid on any contract or does it need to be your business? I'm at the very beginning and I don't know what kind of business to start. Okay. So this is a very common question. And I definitely don't mind expanding on this at all because I know so many people need to hear it. And so again, let me rephrase this. Can you bid on any contract or does it need to be your business? I'm at the very beginning and I don't know what kind of business to start. Okay. So you do want to be focused. So I'm going to give you some strong like guidelines here. No, do not bid on any contract. Okay. You want to be focused. And I do recommend that you watch the video. I just put it out this week on knowing what I know now. How would I start a GovCon business from scratch? It gives you 10 steps, literally what I would do if I was starting over and I didn't have a specific business. So your question literally is the video that I did. So I do recommend that you check that out, but I will expand on it a little bit right now. In that video, I gave the example of step number one, I'm making the decision for what type of business I want to go into because it's business first and then GovCon second. Okay. It's not GovCon first. It's like not, hey, I have nothing that I want to pursue government contracting. That doesn't work well for most of us. Some people can pull it off. I've seen it done. It's just not something that I get behind a whole lot because I know it's very difficult for a lot of people and you don't know what you're biting off when you make that decision. So what I recommend you do, and it's not sexy and it's probably not what you want to hear, but I recommend you start a business, you make some sort of decision about what you want to go into. In the video, the example that I gave is going after professional administrative type staffing services. And that's because it's a low barrier to entry business model to get into staffing people. It's fairly straightforward to manage. You don't have to have a highly set of technical skills to do that. You have to be a recruiter and you have to be able to manage a contract, right? So in the video example, that was what I said I'm going to do. So once I made that decision in step one, I go out and I literally register an LLC, get my TIN EIN number, set up a business banking account, and I'm going to stash 10 to 15K away in that bank account because once I win contracts in the future, I have to front the money. The government doesn't pay you. They reimburse you. They don't pay you money up front. It's a net 30 or a net 60, the first payment, and then it becomes a net 30 once you're set up in the invoicing system, right? So you got to have that little safety net of cash there. So 10 to 15K in a bank account and a business that's registered, I'm starting there, okay? And then I'm actually going on about getting a little bit of past for performance and experience in my business. So I'm looking at my downline. I'm looking on LinkedIn. I'm looking, in my Rolodex, whatever you have, your contacts list. Do you have anybody who owns a business, anybody that has employees? And I'm putting a few of those employees through my business, running them through my payroll, right? And, I kind of skipped it, but I'm also getting an accountant and I'm hooking up with a payroll company. So I'm doing all of this stuff even before registering as sam.gov. So what I'm telling to you is you really need to establish some sort of business sense and presence. And then you have to learn your pricing. Going through the process of bringing those people on, it's going to teach you what you need to know to price your business in terms of, it's going to teach you what your costs are, because as a professional administrative staffing, any sort of staffing, payroll, you need to be paying in half to all those employer payroll taxes, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, Social Security, Medicare. How can you have some sort of pricing formula to go after government contracts if you don't even know how to account for your own costs? So working with an accountant and a payroll company will help you. Again, and if you already have a business, you already know all this stuff. So, I'm preaching to the choir. But if you're brand new, you don't have anything, you need to at least start 6 to 9 months with something real and then bring that thing to government contracting. And then those are the type of contracts you're going to target. Then you're going to target the agencies that buy the most of those, which is what we just demonstrated in a very, kind of quick and fast way over on USA Spending. So that's what you're doing. I don't recommend that you just start out going after everything. And the name of the game is registering your business in sam.gov. If you don't have a business to register, you can't register it in sam.gov. So don't break the process. Don't break the system. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of misleading information out there. We see the movie War Dogs. We watch other YouTubers, whatever. It's like, it's first things first, okay? The government wants to do business with the business. The government doesn't want to do business with a shell. Is that, so it's a little bit of tough love, but it's some strong guidelines. And I'm not speaking just to you, Bridget. I'm speaking to everybody. And some of you know this more than others, but it's just something that constantly needs to be pounded on because it's going to make everything so much better for you. Because, if you come up against this solicitation that requires past performance, well, you have it. Because, for example, you can use commercial past performance. And you're like, oh, hey, I did this low-hanging fruit thing. And I ran some employees from my buddy's company or whatever. And, we've had them on payroll for over a year. We've been staffing them. Essentially, well, now you've gained past performance. Now you're bidding and you have something strong or something, to put down. So Bridget says, thank you. I'll use this as my blueprint. So yes, this is just a quick kind of emphasis on the beginning part of things. Basically, Bridget, I want you to get super motivated about doing things right at the beginning, and it's going to make things a lot more streamlined and possible for you in the later stages. So it's like, put in more of the hard work at the beginning, even though it's not probably sexy and not what you want to hear. But I'm only telling you that because I want to see you successful a year from now, even 9 months from now. Do this over the next 6 months, right? And then, the third quarter for next year, the third and fourth quarters for next year will be here before you even know it. And then it's like, Bridget has been putting all this time doing things right, getting things lined up. Now you're bringing that confidence. A lot of reason people are not on sam.gov bidding is because they don't have the confidence. They're like, I don't know how to price. Why don't you know how to price? Because you don't have a business. You don't know your numbers. You figure your numbers out even before government contracting. There's not that much pricing stuff that goes into it when it hits GovCon. Like there's wage determinations and things like that you need to abide by, but there's not like this whole secret formula that unfolds itself. I mean, it's your expenses, it's your overhead, it's your G&A, and it's your profit. That's not a GovCon thing. That's a business thing. Know the business first, and all the GovCon stuff, it's going to work itself out. Good question. So guys, if you just joined or if you're new or whatever, let me know that you're here in the chat. I'm still making my way through. Guys, I'm not doing any more NAICS codes examples. Maybe I'll get to some more later, but you don't need to add those anymore just because we did a lot. I think everybody kind of gets the point. I don't want to use up too much time doing the same things. But yeah, maybe in the second half, we can get to it more. So I'm planning on going for a few hours today. So like I said, if you're just kind of joining, good morning, love interacting with you guys in the community. Like I said, I haven't gotten to do it for quite some time. We go live like this every single week in GovCon Gold Rush. So, I have to prioritize my time and preference my time with the members in the group, of course. But things are definitely getting ramped up there, seeing a lot of good things in the group. So I'm able to kind of spend some more time also and divert my attention a little bit and come back here live on the channel, which is what I'm doing this morning. And, I'm going to go for 2 or 3 hours. That's my plan. So we got different folks in different time zones. I'm really trying to this morning get in front of many as people as possible. So, we're kind of just hanging out. There's not a real structure to this. Basically, we're going to see how long it takes before I lose my voice. I think I'm doing okay so far. I may take an intermission or 2 or 3 hours is a long time for me to be on camera. We'll kind of see how it goes. I think the longest I've ever been is 1.5 hours. And that was a lot. I got to remind myself to breathe, right? Because otherwise I get really bad headaches after live streaming because I'm talking so much and I'm not inhaling as much as I'm exhaling. Like my breathing gets out of balance. So I'm just keeping it real with you guys. Let me see here. Just getting caught up on the chat. Okay, and Bridget said, if my question is not allowed, no, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Serena says, looking forward to the marketing strategies. Yep. Okay, so we can touch. I will make a note of that. We can touch on a bit of marketing. I touched on it a little bit earlier, just from a high level, some bullet points, but maybe we can go a little bit in depth on that. Basically, what I'll talk about is capability briefings, since that's going to be the #1 tactic you're probably going to use. So I've got that down, Serena, as a note. And I'm just going to try to catch up a little bit more on the chat, and then we will use that as a topic in a few minutes, if that sounds good to you guys. What websites are good for finding growth grants for a technology company? Matt, to be honest with you, I don't spend any time with grants. There is acquisition.gov, I believe. And I think they may have some grant information. Oh God, pulling up my bank. Don't want that. Acquisition.gov. Go to acquisition.gov. I think there is some grant type stuff in here. Maybe it's at the bottom. I could be wrong. But all that to say, I'm probably not the best person to ask about grant stuff because I don't spend, it's just not my space. There's things I spend time on. There's things that I don't. I still think there's something in here for acquisition.gov for grants, Matt. So I would steer you to that website. But other than that, there's nothing that kind of comes to mind for me. It's just, I know a lot of IT companies are in that space. What is it? SBIR, SBIR. There's a lot of IT growth type grants with that as well, that program. It's kind of the best I got for you, though. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. And you were saying for government contracting, of course. Yeah, and it's just because it's not what I only talk about my experience, okay? And so I started working out at an IT staffing company, and then we grew into a lot of different verticals. We just didn't do anything with grants. All of our success and our contracts came by way of doing what I teach and what I focus on. So it just doesn't mean it's bad, or it doesn't mean, that I think it's bad or that I think it's something that you shouldn't do. It's not that. It's just I have zero experience in grants and funding. So, I'm totally comfortable in saying like that's just, not my thing, and there's not really much I can do to help with that. So I just try and, be transparent about everything as possible. We have a comment from Hood Hippie. Is that even for travel and accommodation services? I believe that there is a more probably appropriate NAICS code. I think this is in reference to some of the NAICS codes that we were looking at. I think there's probably a more accurate travel and accommodation services NAICS code. And guys, kind of on that, using this as an example, what you can do is if you ever have a question, because remember, we were just at USA Spending, we were plugging in NAICS codes, right? So we were making a presupposition that you have those NAICS codes, or that you have the rightest and most accurate NAICS code. If you're not at that stage, what you should do, if you can put into words what it is that the good or services that you want to offer or that your business does offer, go to sam.gov. I'm not going to show it. I think most of you have been there. Go to sam.gov, search by keyword, and then plug in some of those keywords that you would use to describe the thing, the good or the service. And then in the search results, it's going to pull up something, right? Like it's going to pull something up that's going to be a match for those keywords probably. So again, this is if you don't know NAICS codes, that's what we're solving right now. This is probably one of the easiest, most effective ways that I know. It's a working backwards strategy. It seems like in government contracting, everything you're doing is working backwards. You plug in the keywords. So say, let's use an example, okay? Let's say you were looking for chiropractors, chiropractics, whatever, okay? You're like, we're a chiropractic office and we want to staff some other chiropractors, right? Random example, I know. But you're like, well, I don't know the NAICS code for that, so I don't really know how to search by it. Go to sam.gov, keywords, type in chiropractor, see what pops up in the search results, look at the title, and then as you read through the titles, if you're seeing things that sound like, they've got chiropractor or chiropractics, and the title, click that open, confirm that that's what that is all about. And then once you do that, see what NAICS code they've associated with it. Okay, so I guess we can just do an example. And we'll use this one. So we're going to sam.gov, go to search, contract opportunities. Okay, we've got no filters in. We're looking for chiropractor. We don't know what NAICS code to use, though. Go to keywords. Chiropractor. Spell it right? Yeah. Did I? Yeah, I didn't think I spelled it right. Okay, so we've got one. And this is like a bad example. But let's say we didn't know the NAICS code. So you open up the search results. And then you see what NAICS code they're using. NAICS code 621310, Office of Chiropractors. Okay, so that's like exactly what we wanted to know, is it not? This is the 621310 Office of Chiropractors NAICS code. So you should be searching by 621310 at least, and in part of your search. Now, this is not a great example because for whatever reason, it only pulled up one, and I do believe there is more than one. But guys, sam.gov is, I still believe it's like migrating stuff over because all the time I use it and I get really crappy search results. So if that happens to you, you're not the only one. But if you're trying to find the rightest, again, the most accurate NAICS code, do this example 3, 4, 5 times, use different types of keywords to describe it, because for all we know, we put in chiropractor and that only brought up one solicitation. Maybe there's a lot of solicitations out there that are like other medical, or, the government could, basically term these things in other ways. So you got to kind of throw darts and practice, and then, spend a day or two really feeling strong and really, skimming the database for whatever type of contracts you're going after, and then have, a robust list, or, as big or as small as you want, but have a bit of a meaty list that you want to use, and then use that for, creating searches and things like that. So I hope that helps. Jamal says, thank you, Derek. You are so welcome, man. We got Coronavirus 2.0, new sub, defense contractor, flight simulation for the Navy. Hey, that's awesome. Again, one of the things that my company did that I worked for, we had a retired pilot who was, or is, an aeronautics pilot. So basically to say he's pretty badass. And I don't know if he was also special forces or not, but what we did was we purchased a small community airport down in, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It's right on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. We bought that small commercial airport, and we started a curriculum for pilot training. And we had some simulation type setup in there because that was going to be part of the curriculum, and it was going to be a school. Well, long story short, guys, here's some business lessons learned. It turns out this guy, he was not even showing up for work. He was into another state because we were based in Michigan. He was supposed to be heading this thing down for my boss down at that airport down in Hopkinsville. And then he just pieced out to some other state. And every time she would call, he would just pick up a cell phone and be like, yeah, things are going great. She did a piss poor job at management. My boss was probably her weakest skill set. Very amazing, powerful lady, but management was just not her thing because she trusted people too much. And so that ended up not being a successful program for us. So anytime I hear about air pilot training, or, aviation, or, basically contractor flight training is what we were doing, simulation type stuff, I'm always reminded of that story. A little bit of a blast from the past for me. And I'll never forget it. I went down there because I was basically her right-hand man, my boss's right-hand man. So I was involved in all of these different industries and verticals and all these crazy projects, which is why I decided to do GovKidMethod in the first place, is because I felt like I had so much experience and so many crazy things and so many crazy stories, guys. It's I need to get this information out and help people in whatever industry they're in. I went up on a plane with him. My boss and her kids were in the back. And it's almost like the driver's training vehicle where there's the two steering wheels and there's the two set of instruments. We were flying midair in a small little charter plane, and he just took his hands off, and he's like, all right. Yeah, I was in the front with him. I was sitting on the right side. He was on the left side of the cockpit, and I had zero experience in anything, afraid of heights. This little charter plane, you're just surrounded by glass. I mean, you don't even have the comfort of feeling like you've got 6 inches of whatever between you and outside. It's just glass. And he took his hands off and he said, it's all you, man. And I had to grab the controls, and I flew for a half an hour. Now, granted, I didn't take off or do a landing or anything, but I had control of the steering wheel, if you will. And, I learned basically as you push down or you pull back, you go up or you go down. So it's basically left and right, but it's also up and down. And it kind of sucked. It was crazy because there was not many other planes flying that day because they said it was too windy to take off. So we were the only ones. And this guy pulls this type of crap with me. And, end of the story, everything was fine. But I was white knuckled for a half an hour. And by the time we landed, I was so exhausted. It took so much of my energy. So that's my one story for flying and anything related to basically simulation and that type of good stuff, that all that stuff flashes back through my my memory. Bridget says, everyone remember to hit that like button. Yes, Bridget, thank you. Thank you for reminding guys, hit the like button if you're liking this video. And also if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet, majority of the people who watch videos on YouTube and also watch my videos, it's the same for me, are not actually subscribers to the channel. So hey, if you're getting value from this, you're getting your question answered. Maybe you're just getting to know, like, who's this Derek guy? Who's this GovKid guy? And if you decide, it's something that you like and you want to get more information in the future, subscribe. That way you'll see more of the videos that come out. And it's just a way of, kind of showing, feedback to me that you're liking, what I'm putting out there for you. So thank you for that, Bridget. Hey, Schwan. Yep, Schwan Edmonds. Hello, hello. Gadget Tool or Gauge Tools Unlimited says, any tips on funding a contract after award? So yeah, this is always, the cart before the horse type thing, right? I recommend having some sort of stash of money to be able, capital to be able to front things on contracts. A lot of this depends on the type of contract that you're going into. Professional services, it can take, net 30 to bill out an invoice for. So, it could be, 30 to 60 days, till you're actually paid. If you've got some sort of sourcing contract where you're providing a physical good and it's being delivered, well, you've got the lead time for the delivery that you have to front. And then the government is going to have to inspect it once it's delivered. And once they inspect it, it can be, it usually doesn't take that long thereafter. They'll approve it and then you could submit your invoice. So usually it's a little bit faster. Then if you're looking at something like construction contracts, those are going to be more progress payment type things. So as you hit milestones, these can be, multiple months, depending on the size of the project, or it could be less than that. Again, it depends on the size. So depending, to answer the question, depending on what industry you're in, the frequency and the volume and how you're basically invoicing is going to be dependent on that. Also, like if you're doing something really small or a micro purchase, you can get paid next day just by a credit card, taking a credit card purchase over the phone if you're able to accept and process credit cards. So aside from that, there's something called, to answer your main question here, any tips on funding a contract after award? The SBA has some of the best rates for loans. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's one of the more common answers. There's also something called factoring. There's these factoring companies that basically they buy your invoice for you, or basically they handle that part. They front the money for you, and basically you're working through them, and then they're working through whatever the end user is. In this case, the government. So it's kind of a middleman company, and then they're charging you some sort of rate. Typically that rate is like per day though. So, factoring is something that some people use, but it can be quite expensive. Other than that, I recommend starting small. Don't start out trying to win some, $500,000 contract if you do not have the wherewithal and the capital to basically front that and make that happen. Like I said, it's the cart before the horse. So if you're starting out and you've got nothing, start small and you can work your way up to it. But, you can basically work with, and then also like relationships. So a lot of construction companies will work with subcontractors for certain trades. And, my other recommendation is payment terms. Payment terms that we used was paid when paid. So let them know, hey, this is not the same as the commercial world. This is the government world, and educate your subcontractor or your supplier or your manufacturing, or if you're working with anybody, whoever you're purchasing from or whatever, try and do this paid when paid payment terms, which basically lets them know like, hey, as soon as we get paid, we have an agreement that, you'll get paid within 14 days or something like that. So as soon as the government reimburses us, you're getting reimbursed, because obviously we can't pay you until we have the money to get paid. So that's a bit of a trickle down payment structure. We use paid when paid. And it's just kind of educating whoever it is you're working with. Other than that, guys, just interest rates are so low right now. it's not free money, but it's almost free money. So it's all about, if you're going to get some sort of business loan or whatever, it's like, well, interest rates are not 10% right now, you know? So hopefully that helps at least a little bit. We've got Hunter Hawthorne hanging out with us today. Good morning, good morning, good morning, people. Yes, very good morning to you. Raven says, I also have my capability statement completed. Well, that's great. I don't know if this was part of another earlier comment. I don't see anything. But yes, if you have your CAPE statement completed, that's awesome. So guys, I know we had the comment. I think now is the time to get back to it before I forget about marketing. So let me go back and pull that up. If I can find it. Yes, Serena Holmes. Serena Holmes was asking about looking forward to the marketing strategies. So guys, I touched on it a bit earlier. There's a few different ways that you can market to the government. You can respond to sources sought notices, stage 1. You can hold capability briefings, which is what we're going to talk about. You can reach out to contracting officers and request capability briefings as well. You can reach out to small business offices and OSDBUs and request a capability briefing as well. You can go to government contracting conferences, free or paid, local or all the way over in DC, right? These are all things you can do to market your GovCon business. I say probably the most effective thing that you can do, thing that's probably going to be the biggest bang for your buck and the best payoff, is going to be doing a capability briefing. And, you know, as was just mentioned by Raven, it kind of starts with having your capability statement in check. That becomes the focal point for the meeting. And then you expand off with questions and wherever else the conversation goes organically with the point of contact you're speaking with. Contracting officer, contracting specialist, small business liaison at the OSDBU. Okay, those are your audience. You can do this thing with any of those 3 people if they're willing to have you and hear you out. All right. So number 1, make sure you have your capability statement in check. Okay. If you don't have a capability statement, I'm going to do a bit of a sponsor notice, letting you guys know in a few minutes that today's live is sponsored by our capability statements. That's kind of what's allowing me to, in part do this today, the support from the capability statement. So we'll get more into that in a few minutes after this point. But the capability statement or the capability statement briefing, think of it like this. It's a 30 to 60 minute meeting. The meeting can be in person. It can be via technology, whether you're on Zoom or anything. StreamYard is what I'm using. Microsoft Teams is another popular one. So whether you're using technology because of COVID, or you're actually able to meet in person, which I recommend any chance that you get, what you're going to do is go through your capability statement point by point. I recommend not doing that so much, but basically what you're going to introduce some of the basic things. That's what I mean by that. Who is your company and what do you do? What is your elevator pitch, right? What are the goods and services that your company can provide and offer to the government? In addition to that, what NAICS codes are you able to procure under? What NAICS codes can you perform? Okay. Do you have any experience? Do you have, how is your past performance on those projects in the past? It doesn't have to be commercial contracts, guys. It can be anything B2B in the commercial space, B2C, depending on what type of industry you're in. Or if you're the small business owner, it can be anything that you've done professionally that you're now bringing to your business. So if in another life, you had a very, unique set of skills, or you're very technical with something, and now you're deciding to build a business off of that, well, now all of a sudden you can bring that experience to your business as the small business owner. Does that make sense? So during the meeting, that's what you're selling. Okay. So that's a bit of the selling, the upfront. You are educating the client, the contracting officer, or the small business rep on what your company is able to do and why you're able to do that. Okay. And if I didn't touch on it already, of course, you're touching on any set-asides that your company may have also. So that's kind of what you're doing up front. Then you want to come with some intelligent questions, okay? And they're going to be asking you questions as well. So kind of be prepared to, know your business and speak to anything else. Again, this is what you're doing during a capability briefing, whether it's in person or via technology. This is probably the most frequent and common and most accepted way to market your GovCon business to the right people, to your target agencies, right? So then you're going to prepare some intelligent questions. You want to learn more about what the agency you're visiting is buying, okay? Yes, you should already go to usaspending.gov and do some of these examples, these NAICS code examples that we did here this morning on the channel. Already know that, but ask those leading questions because you want to hear what they have to say. I guarantee you they're going to have a bit of a different angle, a different spin on the things that the agency focuses on. Now, again, you kind of want to make sure that their answer is going to align with what your company provides, which is why, you go through this process before even sending an email to schedule this capability briefing to market your business. Because if you're like, okay, yeah, no, they don't buy anything of what I have to offer. Okay, let's schedule a meeting with them. Like, no, of course you wouldn't do that. You're like, okay, they spend a lot. I know they spend a lot. So when you get in this meeting with them and you ask this leading question, then you get to hear maybe in more detail and more relevance. And hey, we've got this contract coming out next month. And hey, we've got this contract that just expired. And maybe, there's this May talk and, it's going to be onboarding new contractors next year. And it's for a 5 or 10 year long May talk where there's multiple awards happening, multiple contractors all the time. And that's the way we procure these particular NAICS codes that are a match for your business. So you get to, instead of going black and white, which is the level of depth you're getting in USA Spending, it brings everything into color when you get to have this capability briefing meeting. You get to hear it from their mouth. The other good thing is you get to learn more about that contracting office. So an agency itself, take like the Army, they're all over the country, right? And then they're also stationed all over the world as well. So that's pretty broad. But then when you have this meeting scheduled, you're learning about a particular contracting office, So for the Army, they have the Mission Installation Contracting Commands, MIC, and then there's 6 of them, or there's 10 of them, or there's 12 of those offices stationed all around the country, right? But then there's also like the Army National Guard. There's all these other spin-offs, and those are not the same as each other. But it's like the deeper you go into these agencies, the more specifically you learn. And this is part of marketing because now you're like, oh, I'm specifically marketing to this little sub tier or this little, route off of the main agency. And you're kind of getting your foot in the door and you kind of learn more of that type of stuff in this meeting. It all starts with you basically requesting it and getting it set up, being prepared, having some intelligent questions to ask, being able to answer their questions. And then, a couple of other things about this meeting that I recommend, just giving you guys a couple of, gold nuggets here. I never attend a meeting. Well, 2 things. First off, capability briefings, always print off some things out of their office, right? So actually print off sources sought. If there's a solicitation, you can print that off if you're really into it. But I like sources sought even better to bring with you because it's only stage 1. They can openly talk about it. I've even had it where they pull the contracting officer in or put me in front of them and say, hey, this is a contractor that does exactly what you guys do. You've got an audience, do your pitch in front of the contracting office. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, holy crap, you're speaking to 8, 10, 12 people, whether it's in person or, again, virtually. And it's all because of this one little tactic that you took. It's just like, you never know what could happen. Now, if you bring something like a source of salt with you, you really don't know what could happen because now you're talking about something specific. This is a specific job that they're going to be buying for in the future. Now, all of a sudden, like you're talking about it and you're in there, they may have a little bit to say about that, especially during the source of salt stage where it's more open and they're conducting market research. You never know what kind of happened. And again, I'm not talking about, a slam dunk award or anything like that, but you can really go a lot deeper than you ever would get by just sending an email or something. So making the most of this capability briefing by going to sam.gov, printing off any notices that are out of the office that you're meeting and interacting with in this. It really shows that you're not green, you're not naive, you're not new. The last thing you want to do is to give an impression that you're some new contractor off the street, you have no idea what you're doing, and you're just somebody coming in kind of expecting a contract. They kind of just mentally check out when you give that impression to them. Instead, if you do some of these things we're talking about, they're going to be like, man, like Serena Holmes really knows her stuff. Serena Holmes really came prepared. Now, this is just meeting one, but I already like Serena's business. And, maybe the next time I hear from her, I'm going to be more inclined to be helpful or respond because I know she's serious. I know her business is serious. And, maybe in the future, this is somebody that I'd like to learn even more about and maybe, engage in a contract with, right? This is the right way to do capability briefings to market your business and kind of what to stay away from. Guys, it's time for me to get a drink. My mouth is getting super dry. If you guys are liking this, let me know in the chat. If you've commented and I haven't responded yet, I'm just making my way through. So no worries there. But I'm super happy to be hanging out with you this morning. I've been looking forward to it all week. And again, it's so great to see so many of you in the chat. I recognize from the comments in the videos, it's super cool to just hang out with you guys. So Serena, without going too long-winded, I definitely put a lot of emphasis on this. And the way that you pursue it is it's called a capability briefing. And I'm saying that so many times because that's what you need to call it when you pick up the phone or you email one of these point of contacts in contracting or the OSDBU, the small business office. You request a capability briefing, you get a time and a date, okay? And then you do all these things to prepare. And then you do these as many times as you want. Again, in GovCon Gold Rush, we're teaching, emphasis on certain things at certain times of the year, because if you're doing all the things right, but you're doing them at the wrong time, you're going to still get negative feedback, right? If you're doing the right things at the wrong time, it's still not going to work. So maybe don't try to do a lot of capability briefings and get their time when it's the fourth quarter and things are like super busy and they're behind on all of their solicitations and their reviews and their bids. They don't have time for you, right? So GovCon Gold Rush, we teach focusing on other times of the year where maybe it's more opportune to get in front of them, right? So it's not all about the how-to, but it's also about the when. I got to catch my breath here. So NBA Shot Clock Cheese says, could you do a special video in the future on how to do a technical proposal and financial proposal for RFQs, or how to respond to a bid in general? So I actually have done a few of these. I've done bid proposal training. I don't know if you've seen those NBA Shot Clock Cheese, but I literally go down to the nitty gritty of reading a bid, building a skeleton outline, filling it out, covering like the pricing table and what you would need to do. So I would start you off there, and we did get a huge favorable response from that. So I probably will do more of those in the future, like the paperwork and all that type of stuff. But again, just so you guys know, like we teach all of that in GovCon Gold Rush. All that stuff is there. So my preference is for in the program. And I'm going to be also breaking some things out and coming out with some new ways to learn, I'll say, for you guys. One of the things that I may even, I'll even, if you're listening and you're watching, give you a bit of a sneak peek into what's going to be coming up probably this month. Something called Proposal Builder Docs we have inside of GovCon Gold Rush. And, I'm not in the business of teaching you guys, how to write. Like it would just take, I'm not an English teacher. I cannot teach you how to write. But what I can do is kind of give you templates and, focus down on a different type of template where we have like a staffing plan, quality control plan, management plan, a bit of a bid outline where all you have to do is plug some of these things in, past performance tables, pricing tables, right? All these things are already created. Now you will have to customize them and tailor them to whatever you're going after, but it's going to significantly bridge that gap from having a blank sheet of paper to having a finished bid. Like, it's going to get you halfway there. So it's basically, I already have them created. So it's my goal to probably make them available sometime this month to you guys. And it's not going to, I'm not planning to really make it like a course or anything like that. So I don't know how much video content would go along with it. Maybe just a couple videos to explain things, but it's really going to just be about the templates and like the Word docs themselves. It's going to be a Word document, or it's going to be a group of Word documents. And those will be available for purchase on GovKidMethod.com. And anybody in GovCon Gold Rush, they're going to get access to all of that for free. We already have some proposal builder docs. They're going to get more of them though, so the people there are going to get it first. But then if you're not in the program, I will have it a la carte where you can buy just that. If you just want to get like the templates to get started or whatever, I want to help you guys as many ways as possible. I'm not 100% on doing that, although I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I just don't want you guys having a bunch of templates that are collecting dust, because now you don't know the rest of the process, right? So I went back and forth on this a lot, but again, to responding to NBA's comment here, I will have that as an additional resource for you to help significantly bridge the gap for anybody who wants to get serious and they're just saying, hey, you know what, like, it's just the writing part that is not my cup of tea, or I haven't seen how to put these things together or whatever. This is going to really help to address something like that. All right. Let me see here. Gauge Tools, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. We are just hanging out this morning. You are delivering value, sir. I really appreciate that. That's what I'm trying to do. Honestly, I'm getting as much out of this as you guys are, because I really like to hear your questions. I really like to hear where you're at. So thank you so much, Gauge Tools, for the support for the channel. It makes doing, live streams and things like that, it lets me know that you're getting value from them. So really appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Let me go back here. I wanted to give you a shout out for that. Andra Hawthorne says, you are the man. Thank you. I'm so glad that it's helpful. I'm really glad. Coronavirus 2.0, it says, wow, that is crazy. I'm not sure in regards to what part of it is crazy. Maybe it was regarding to the templates I was talking about. We have, let's see, who else we've got? We've got Silve New says, aloha. Hey, aloha back to you. I believe that means hello and goodbye. So hopefully that means hello. Andra says, got to go in debt to make $1 million. I mean, I don't recommend it. I recommend starting small and taking that money you make off the small ones to slowly start to build a snowball. If you need to leverage a little bit of like a credit card or a small loan, but, I don't recommend, getting into a whole bunch of debt. Also, any, like I said, paid relationships you can establish, then, everybody's kind of waiting, and then everybody gets billed and invoiced and paid at the same time. Another way of kind of getting around debt, if you can have relationships that are willing to agree to something like that. All right, we've got Trayvon Young says, these new cybersecurity requirements about to make it hard for small businesses, just starting with limited funds to work with the government. So yeah, a lot of these requirements come into play for the contracts that you have in place. But if you don't have a contract yet, there's, not as much to do, I'll say. Obviously, I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but I know that there are cybersecurity requirements coming down, just cracking down on anti-terrorism and things like that. But when it comes to some of the stuff that really is affecting small contractors, it's like, okay, well, if you receive some sort of suspicious email, okay, forward that to the appropriate, agency, INSCOM or whatever, right? Security office. If you as a contractor receive a suspicious email or have something suspicious happens, that could be like your whole plan that addresses this. So I know like it can seem very overwhelming, but when it actually boils down to what a very small contractor that doesn't even have a contract yet has to do, it's like you can write it on a piece of paper what it actually means. Okay, so I would recommend, kind of, if you're concerned about those things, kind of speaking with a professional that's not trying to, like, I don't know, going to just try to gouge you and get you set up on all these things that are going to be way overkill from what you need. The government knows that, the super small contractors, most of these things do not apply to, especially if you don't have a contract. But, it's like, yeah, you have to basically take notice. If you have a government contract and you have, government data, you have to take, additional steps to make sure that information is not compromised. Also make sure that you have a setup for your computer or wherever, you've got a network server or whatever, making sure you have appropriate firewalls and things set up like that to make sure things are also, your data is not being compromised so that the enemy cannot gain information through a government contract, right? But it's just like for a lot of us or companies that are super small, you don't have to do as much as the big contractors. The larger you are, the more contracts you have and the more ingrained you are, it's a lot more hoops that you have to go through for these things. So, and the smaller you are, it's kind of the less that it affects you. So I would say don't let it stop you, at all. If you're, especially if you're getting more into like, the IT space, because it's affecting IT companies more also than other type of contractors. Josh says, yeah, CMMC sucks for sure. Yep. It's just something we've all got to go through. Schwan says, if you don't get contracts, can you call the contracting officer on a debriefing and ask why you didn't get the contract? Yeah. So if you responded to a bid and you were not the winning bidder, you have 72 hours to submit a request for proposal debrief. Typically, contracting will honor that. They'll get on the phone with you for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, go over your response. They're more likely and more inclined to do this on a proposal, like an RFP, or actual proposal to go over. If it was just an RFQ and it was price only, they don't really get into pricing a whole lot on these debriefs. And so there's not really much to talk about. So if it was an RFP or any sort of proposal response, you can ask the pricing question and say, hey, like, ballpark me, where did I rank? Was I second, third, fourth, closest? You can do that. But then you can also really double and triple down on the rest of your response and the rest of your proposal. Like what was great, what needed to be beefed up. And then you take that information and you do what they're recommending, right? And then the next bid that same freaking contractor has, or contracting officer has out, you respond to it with your beefed up proposal, right? And maybe your dialed in pricing. You're going to be better. So maybe next time you go from fourth place to second place or to third place. You keep doing this until they're like, man, this Schwan Edmonds is really just, upping his game over the last 6 months. Seeing, his response 6 months ago to now, it's just like night and day. And now, now you're winning, So these proposal debriefs are actually huge, guys. They're as or even more important than the capability briefing. You can only do them for bids that you respond to. I always say, if you're going to invest all of this time to actually respond to something, don't leave this really low-hanging piece of fruit on the table. I say proposal debriefs are a bidding strategy, and they're also a marketing strategy. They're a bidding strategy because you get to enhance your actual responses, but they're a marketing strategy because, hey, you get 10, 15, 20 minutes kind of one-on-one with a contracting officer in this type of light. They're getting to know you more, whether you know it or not. This is a kind of passive type of marketing, but it's another way to get in front of them, and it's like, it's a numbers game. And, it's not the first time or the fourth time or the sixth time, but maybe the 12th time you're in front of them that something clicks, or the 18th time. It's just like, it's like sales. You can't take no for an answer. And this isn't a yes or no capacity, but it's getting that light bulb to click where all of a sudden they like you, or all of a sudden like they're like, okay, I am going to show them the time of day, or like whatever. All of a sudden they're on my radar as a serious contractor. I'm going to like have them in my database. I want to consider working with them on a future requirement. They're new, we've got to spread the money around, like whatever situation, they happen to find themselves in with the dollar spend, whether it's, underneath the simplified acquisition threshold or not. Sometimes things are easier for them than other times. You just never know what could happen. So you want to put yourself in the best light and the best position to basically do that. And proposal debriefs are massive. And I just don't know why you wouldn't do it. So yeah. All right, we got Sparks Alexander. Glad to be here. Glad to have you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks, Derek. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Do you recommend doing a capability briefing if you don't have any past performance yet? Earl G asks. Yes. Yeah, because you don't have to have past performance to win a government contract or to bid on government contracts. It's around like 50% of the bids you're going to find ask you to talk about your previous projects. The other ones, it's going to be a technical approach and pricing. So what is your approach? How are you going to do the work? This can be a technical approach that's written. This can be resumes. This can be a staffing approach. This can be answering, technical questions and then completing a pricing table, or just filling out pricing CLINs on the SF standard form, SF 1449 or SF 1442, or whatever form they give you guys. If they give you forms, fill them out, but don't go looking for them. Okay. If you don't understand forms, they give them to you, fill them out, but don't if they don't give them to you, don't go looking for them. Not going to get into that, but it's kind of how you address government forms. So absolutely, what you're talking about in a capability briefing, as we talked about, is you're selling yourself. So if you don't have a specific project, at least talk about something that you've done personally, and don't frame it saying back in the day. Be like, yes, say I have experience doing blank. So you still want to put the proper frame around it, but now you're saying I have experience doing blank instead of saying my company has had a contract previously. There's a difference between the two, but it's just as easy to say I've personally done as it is my company, right? So it's kind of like, it's not misleading at all or whatsoever, because, I've had this conversation with multiple contracting officers and they say, Derek, let us be the gauge of your experience. Okay. Don't think that you don't have anything. Everybody has something. Okay. And like I said in the answer that I said earlier too, in my 10 steps video, knowing what I know now, how would I start over? Right. It's like the way I would do it is I would start out, having some sort of business idea in mind, some sort of slice of the pie that I want to focus on. But then I'm tapping my contacts, I'm tapping my downline, I'm going to LinkedIn, and I'm getting a little bit, even if it's a small contract, to work with them so that when this question comes up, right, I can talk about that project and say, my company did this, and I have personally done this stuff as well in my professional space. But, my company did this commercial contract or these commercial contracts. They don't have to be huge. They can totally be small. You don't have to make money on them. Do them for cost, just so you have a better answer to this. You don't have to take 2 years to do it. Take 6 months to do this. And then, like I said earlier, come back in February or March from having this conversation, having this stuff under your belt. It's going to help you a lot with knowing the true expenses for your business. It's going to help you with pricing on government contracts, right? All this type of stuff. It's like, this is what I would recommend doing. Okay. It's just going to make things easier for you when you have the capability briefing. So, do with it what you will, but that's kind of my recommendation. Josh says, I've only been here 5 minutes and already dropping dimes. I appreciate you, Derek. Hey, Joshua. I thank you so much. I'm glad that it's helpful, and I'm blessed to be able to do this. We are going, it's been an hour and a half today. We'll probably go for another hour to an hour and a half. We've got people waking up all over the country, sleeping in. Some of you guys have been early birds and already. So I just want to connect with as many people as possible. And so that's why we're going a bit longer today. Hey, we've got Rose. Good morning, Derek, Wealth of Knowledge. Once again, thank you, sir. Guys, Rose is actually in our GovCon Gold Rush program. I let them know during our office hours yesterday. I invited them to come out if any of them wanted to come hang out on YouTube, that we would be going live for a few hours. And, so Rose is absolutely the best. She is a shining light, and she is working to build her business. She's also working a full-time job as well. So guys, it's like this stuff isn't easy. And when your boss is like, hey, you got to work 80 hours a week, like it's like you got to prioritize things. So, different strokes for different folks. We're all in different places. All that matters is that you keep taking steps forward, and it's like you'll get there. However much you can prioritize this, you will get there eventually. And, I recommend doing some of the things we talk about here on the channel to just get you there faster, so that you don't spend a whole lot of time, kind of like doing the wrong things, learning all the lessons, the wrong way. Kind of, take it from me, take it from other people that have been successful on the channel, on how to do things. And I'm really happy to have Rose as part of the program. And Rose, it's really great to see you hanging out with us this morning. Thanks for dropping by. So guys, it looks like, I can't believe it, I think I caught up on all of the comments. So this is probably a good time I'll do a little bit of an intermission here. So today we are being sponsored by myself, of course. We're being sponsored by our GovKidMethod capability statements. If you don't know that they are here, we made some website changes. I made some revamps the last couple weeks, so you very well may not have seen these changes. And there's a few changes that are happening that I'm letting you know that haven't even happened yet. So I'm going to let you know right now. So we've got the new layout, and these are all individual. So, whether you're wanting to go into professional services, staffing, IT, real estate. Real estate's one of our new CAPE statements. We've got a few others. Janitorial is also one of our new. That's a hot item. Janitorial services. Anybody in janitorial, we now have that. But what I'm going to be doing and adding to this totally free. So let's just take an example. Yeah, I can't do that. I have to view this as the public first. So what we're doing, guys, is I've had a lot of requests for basically a one-sided one-page capability statement. So as you can see here, everything's front and back. Everything is one page. I never recommend to use a two-page capability statement, something stapled together. Never, ever do that. Always keep it one page. So everything we've had has been a one-pager double-sided. And for me, that's because the second thing I see a contracting officer do is, number one, they look at the front page, but then they turn it over. And if you have a blank page there, that's wasted real estate. It's all just white space, which is why I've always recommended this. But even with that being said, I've always gotten a question saying, Derek, can we just, like, I get it, but can we just get a one-sider? So these are not posted yet, but I'm giving you like a firsthand look. Probably this week sometime. This format, this one-page format. So for example, this is what the two-page, and this is a brand new healthcare and wellness capability statement. So this isn't even available on the site just yet. But for anybody going to healthcare and wellness type business, this is what you would see as a one-page double-sider. But now you're also going to be getting the boiled down version, the one-page, one side. And what I've done is I've actually removed the past performance section from this, because what this means is you're not putting a highlight on past performance. So anybody who's been having that question about past performance and you're concerned about a spotlight being on that, well, as you can see over here, we've got a whole section here for your experience. If you're afraid of that, this one pager may be more adapted for you, so that once you kind of grow into it, you can move to the double-sided one as well. So I'm just letting you know these new formats are going to be slid into all of the existing capability statements. And so that means if you've ever purchased a capability statement from the website in the past, also What that means is you're going to automatically get that as part of the course that you're enrolled in. And I'll send an email notifying everybody. But so we are being sponsored today by the capability statements. This is one of the things that helps keep my business running. And if you're ever in a need for a capability statement, I've actually seen companies charge as much as $1,500 for these, but many still charge $300, $400, $500. We have those for $97. And you get like I said, you'll be getting both formats. And then the other thing you get totally free is Capability Statement Design Studio, which is 16 videos, but it's a 13 video tutorial that shows you how to totally customize this thing to make it your own. So, for example, you don't want to just take this as is. You want to change all this. And even if you want to change the colors and, put your company logo in here and things like that, swap out the NAICS codes, like you totally can. Capability Statement Design Studio shows you how to do that. So it's literally me screen sharing and talking to you like I'm doing right now, breaking every single one of these things down, how to change everything on the format of the document so you can truly brand this and customize it and make it your own. So you get that totally free as part of enrolling in the download. So you're actually getting quite a bit. You're getting the download itself. You're also getting the one-page version, and then you're also getting the Capability Statement Design Studio, all for $97. It's all in there for one package. So just letting you know that is there, and that's what's sponsoring today's live. Like I said, this is what a lot of helps to drive my business. So if you're ever in need of a capability statement, consider going checking these out if you find something that's going to be a fit for your business. So let me get some more water here, guys. Surprised my voice hasn't given out just yet. So I'm pretty happy about that. All right. Guys, keep the questions coming if you have them. Arthur says, hello, I'm new to your channel, but I love your work and I'm learning so much. How would I search for paint purchasing contracts? Mainly ones that were awarded already. I would like to see the info. So when you say paint purchasing, what do you mean by that, Arthur? What exactly do you mean by paint? To me, it sounds like you're a painting company and you want to get painting jobs. So if that's the case, I can show you that. If you're talking about like artistic type painting and stuff like that, that's probably a little bit different. But I'll share my screen and we can bounce back over to sam.gov. We always start at sam.gov, contract opportunities. Oh man, I don't know if you saw that, I just spilt my water. No, the system's being super slow. Okay, we'll go in this way instead. All right, so we're looking at paint, right? The question is about paint purchasing. I'm assuming that you're a painting company that's looking for painting jobs. That's my assumption. So we can try keywords, and I'm just going to go paint. I'm just going to see what happens. Now, you're also saying you would like to see ones that were awarded already, so we can go over to notice type and go to award notice. And then there's 155 results, which again, I'm sure is not complete, but it's something. So we have paint powder coating. We have maintain pavements paint, runway rubber removal. All right, paint and prep historic building. That sounds a little bit more of what I would imagine you're asking this question about. So since this is an award, we can see that there's a contractor named AJCE Corporation, and they won this particular contract for $76,000. Here, I don't know if you can see. $76,400 for this painting job. Now, we don't always get to see the information of what the job was. If they link up the solicitation like they have done here, they'll give you the documents. So you can go ahead and actually look and be like, okay, you know, what job was this that they awarded under, right? So you can always go ahead and like open it up if you want. If you find a PWS or a statement of work, we've got that here. That'd probably be better to take a look at. See what we got. So here we go. Like maybe this is in your wheelhouse, maybe it's not, but they painted this house. They had to pressure wash the entire building for 4,500 square feet. And then the decks and the chairs and all this stuff. So I'm not going to go too deep down this rabbit hole with you. You know, they're saying because this is a historic building, you know, it has to be painted. You can't spray it. You can't basically ruin the condition or deteriorate whatever condition it's in. So you could be like, okay, I'm going to work backwards. I see that this was awarded to this company for $76,000. You know, what is the job? Come back up to the award notice. And I went to this company and be like, you know, okay, this is the Department of the Interior. And then you start to do your research that way. Maybe you start to, you know, what was the NAICS code? They used the 238320 painting NAICS codes. Okay, cool. Well, now you discovered a NAICS code that you can further plug back into your search, clear all this out. Now, instead of searching by keyword, search by NAICS code. If you didn't know that this existed, and then you plug that in, and there's 205 painting and wall covering contractor NAICS codes, and these are all going to be painting. So it's how you work backwards. You know, this is the example what I gave earlier with the what was it? The chiropractor, where we only had one search results, but this time we did painting. Then we found an award. We pulled the NAICS code, and then we searched by that new NAICS code, and now all of a sudden we're like way more in the area of the cosmos, you know, that we want to be. Now we're looking at 205 results for a lot more painting relevant things. And then you can further go ahead and, you know, you can even look at awards. You know, if you want to look at awards under this, I don't know how much it's going to pull, but we've got 36. So these are, you know, painting services, interior painting based Cape Cod, cyclical painting, painting and concrete repair. So, you know, guys, I'm doing this example because it pertains to all of you. You can use this strategy. You can leverage sam.gov in a very kind of easy and fast way to get a lot of the information that you're going to want pretty easily and pretty quickly. So I'm hoping that this example shows you what's possible in terms of doing research. And again, you know, kind of once you use USA spending and you're finding who's buying the most, you can also use sam.gov in this other capacity to also take a look at and see, you know, research wise, like what's really out there, what's really possible, who's actually winning jobs, what do those jobs look like, what are those jobs being awarded for, what NAICS codes are being used to procure those jobs. Therefore, which NAICS codes should you be pursuing? Hopefully that makes sense. So again, this was Arthur's question about the paint purchasing, but it pertains to all of us, the strategy. So Matt is saying, can you speak about delivery contracts? I have found interest in my first contract with a solicitation I found on Unison. So yeah, Unison Marketplace, formerly FedBid, is a reverse auction. It can be a good past performance building site, guys. And also, if you're not technical yet or whatever, it's a reverse auction. So it's primarily is based on price. And they do have a lot of goods and delivery type contracts on Unison Marketplace. So that is what Matt is referring to. And Matt, good on you. It sounds like you've done a bit of your homework. And you've even found something that you're interested in. So you're looking at something revolving around delivery. So unless you have a specific question, all I can say is if you're the winning bidder, they're basically going to give you a day, probably most often 30 days out or 90 days out. They're going to want the goods delivered. If it's a larger contract, they're going to want the goods delivered in, you know, certain milestones in certain quantities, right? And then, a lot of people have the question about, well, hey, do I ship the good to my place and then from my place ship it out to the customer? Well, you're paying double shipping. So it's usually pretty accepted that it goes straight from the supplier or straight from the manufacturer or whoever to the end customer. You don't need to white label this. You don't need to like put your company's label on the stuff. It can go straight. Like they know typically that you're, purchasing, like they know that you're not the end supplier or manufacturer. So they know it's not you doing it anyways, right? Kind of gets into the non-manufacturer rule. Like they know you're working with a manufacturer or supplier. You don't have to be it. You just have to supply it. And on these type of bids, it's basically going to be, since this is a commodity thing, you can't really mess it up. Oftentimes they will tell you the brand name they want, or they will allow you to offer a equivalent or an alternate equivalent, but you're going to have to show the specs, the salient features to make sure it's up to snuff with the thing that they're wanting, right? So there's not a lot of mystery around this, and it's just basically whoever's taking the least amount of markup, the least amount of profit, and they're providing what is being asked for, that is going to decide, who wins the bid. So those are kind of the hoops and the things that are going to look like in terms of operating for executing on this contract. There's also probably going to be like not a start of work meeting or like a pre-con meeting, but there's going to be like some sort of phone call that happens with you and the end user, maybe, depending on what type of thing it is, an engineer or two who, also is affected by the procurement of this. And then they're just going to ask you like, okay, well, who are you purchasing from? Like, when do you think this can be delivered by? Is there any bumps in lead time? Things like that, just any like environmental type things that could affect the delivery of this, and then once it's delivered, they're going to inspect it. They're going to provide feedback. You can't always be there on site for inspection. If it's close or local, it's good to be there. If it is, I recommend you just deliver it yourself, if at all possible. But if not, you want to make sure you follow up with them the day that it's delivered and make sure that they got it. And kind of the last thing I'll touch on this, since we're talking about deliveries, is if you are delivering multiple things and they're going to be arriving at different times, that's something that you want to pay special attention to. Have a conversation with contracting, or who's going to be the core or the engineer on the contract. Usually they're very good about just like taking those things and putting them off into a room or putting them off into an area of like a warehouse, because you don't want things getting lost. You don't want things being walked off with, being stolen before the final like inspection is made, if that makes sense. So that's just something that I would warn you about if you're having things shipped at different times, shipped separately. Make sure there's tabs being kept on them and that you're following up every time you get like a delivery notification that it's there. Like make sure that you get like, I would even get an email. That way you have something in writing to make sure, okay, piece 1 of 4 or item number, whatever, stock number, whatever, however you want to identify it, is at least somewhat accounted for if the actual inspection is going to be delayed. So that's kind of what I would say about that. All right, we've got Handra Hawthorne. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for hanging out with this morning. I know you had a few questions. Hopefully we got your answers to those. And again, thank you so much for supporting me and the channel for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, guys, I enjoy interacting with you all as hopefully as much as you're getting out of it. I've been excited to do this all week. So thank you so much. And thank you again for the support, Honja. Let me see here. So yeah, again, we were finishing up on Matt's question about Unison Marketplace. So, kudos to Matt. Guys, if you haven't heard about it, you can go to Unison Marketplace, type it in Google. It takes like 2 seconds to set up an account. username, password type stuff. And then you can get in and you can see the type of bids that they have there. Those are still government bids. It's just the government for like these smaller bids and sometimes these other goods, they'll put them on sam.gov and Unison Marketplace. Sometimes I guess they'll put them on Unison Marketplace and not SAM, but most places they'll put them on both. And it's a reverse auction, so it's a race to the bottom. So you set your floor price, the price that you're not willing to go lower than, and then you set your incremental price. So when they're bidding you during the auction, this all happens electronically really, really quickly, and they're bouncing your price off of other people. It comes back to you, after each round. It says, are you willing to go lower? Has you hit the floor yet? If no is the answer, it takes your incremental price and takes your price down again by that amount. So it does it incrementally each time, bouncing and comparing until the lowest price is hit, until whoever has essentially the lowest floor, whoever is willing to go lowest on the contract. Doesn't mean you go all the way down to your floor, though. It just means you go lower than everybody else. And if that's still above your floor, well, then that's great because you still make even more money. So that's how a reverse auction works. That's Unison Marketplace. Used to be Fed bid. And so that's what Matt is referring to. So Kai-san says, hey, what's up? Buying my CAPE statement from you today. Need to update mine. Hey, that's awesome, Kai. Hopefully you find something there that's a match for your business. If you're saying that, you can even let us know what type of business you are in. That way we can honor you for that. But hey, I'm glad that you're finding value in the CAPE statements, and I definitely hope they can help you. We've had a lot of people purchase them over the last year and a half. And I haven't received really anything but positive comments from people using them. So I know that you'll be in good hands with that. This opportunity, I'm sorry, let me come back to you here. This opportunity is outside my 8 NAICS codes. Should I let it pass? That depends. Matt, you can always add a NAICS codes. And I would say even you should be adding and deleting NAICS codes at least like a little bit. Maybe not like your core NAICS codes, but anytime you respond to a bid, make sure that NAICS code is in your sam.gov profile. And if it's not something you would normally go after the bidding has ended and say maybe you didn't win it, go back in and just take that out unless you're going to be using it again. You don't want to necessarily have a lot of NAICS codes. It makes you look like, a jack of all trades and a master of none. What's a lot? I would say more than 20 is definitely a lot. Even creeping up towards 15 is a lot. So I kind of recommend the 5 to 15 range is a little bit more of your sweet spot for a number of NAICS codes. So if you find yourself kind of getting to the higher end of that, if there's things that you still want to go after, I mean, obviously you're asking this question, Matt, because you considered it, but then you're like, oh wait, but this isn't within my NAICS codes. No, don't let that be the reason. And I'm not saying that because I'm telling you to like be overly like flexible or whatever in like a negative way. I'm actually saying that for a very valid reason. The reason for that is the government will put things under different NAICS codes, sometimes not even the best ones. Okay. Sometimes you get a new contracting officer, and I'm not joking. And you're like, they put it under what? Like this other code would have been way better, right? So it's not even on you. So don't think of it as negatively by doing this, because they could put it under a different code. And then the other thing is kind of the game that gets played is every code has a size standard associated with it. So some of them are 7 million, some of them are like 12.5 million, and some of them are in the 20 and $30 million range. So if size standard becomes a thing as your business grows, again, a size standard is a maximum amount of money, revenue that your company can earn over a 3-year trailing average. Let me go ahead and pull this up so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the SBA NAICS code list, right? Let me zoom in and I'll take this off right now. So if we're looking at 541990 NAICS code, this is a $15 million size standard on it. That means if 3 years in a row go by and your business earns more than $15 million in revenue, guess what? You are not considered a small business anymore for this particular NAICS code. That means you need to let a year or two go by for your revenue to come down below this threshold below the $15 million to start pursuing opportunities again under 541990. It doesn't mean you're like a large business all of a sudden and you can no longer do this. No, it's related to the size standard for the NAICS code, and it's the 3-year trailing average. So, again, saying all of that just to educate you a little bit, if you don't know what this means, this ties into which NAICS codes contracting officers sometimes choose, because they realize they could be precluding some businesses that maybe they would want to consider if they choose something with like a really small, like a $7 million NAICS code. Maybe they'll want to open it up a little bit and, choose like a 12 or $15 million NAICS code. That's close, but maybe not the most accurate fit. Well, now all of a sudden you understand like, oh, okay, that's why they used that wonky NAICS code when this other one was like way more obvious. There's some other things going behind the scenes that you don't realize. So, all that to answer and respond to say, if something is relatively outside of your NAICS code range, go for it. If it's something you want to grow into, go for it. Just make sure your list doesn't get too large, too many over 15, I would say. And also if it's something that's kind of random and you're like, whatever, you're going to put it in there and bid on something. And then if it's a no-go, just take it back out. It's really, really easy and straightforward to add and edit and remove NAICS codes from your sam.gov profile. So it's not in concrete. Don't let it like totally hold you back in your business. I like that question. It's a good question. What if you volunteer? Can you put that on the CAPE statement? Schwan, I don't really think there's a place for it unless you're in some sort of like area that, unless your business is already in an area that kind of overlaps with volunteering, maybe, healthcare related or social services, things like that, where it's more relevant. You could put that in, an area like, just pulling up a capability statement example, something like your company overview. If you wanted to add, one of these paragraphs or one of these sentences and say, oh, and by the way, we do this. So if, it's not going to do a whole lot for you in terms of actually like winning contracts and like bidding and marketing strategy per se, but it can be like a nice little cherry on top. But it wouldn't be like a significant thing. That's pretty much what I would say about that. You don't get like extra anything for volunteering. Oh, but if you're saying, okay, if you're talking about, it kind of just clicked. If you're talking about experience or past performance, then yeah, like you could. I've never gotten that question, but it's still experience, it's still past performance, and I still think it has to be relevant. And so you're going to be limited probably if you're volunteering on the type of industries that this would pertain to. So I would say if you are in an industry where this is relevant, then yeah, go for it. You totally can use volunteering. I wouldn't frame it and sell it in a way of like volunteering. I would say we performed this. The activities we did and supported with were this. And, it was through a volunteering project or something that I organized, so frame it in the right light. Z Hill, good morning. Good morning. Or man, we're getting to be close to afternoon now, guys. It's been 2 hours. We've been going strong for 2 hours. I have not lost my voice. Hope you guys are getting value from this. Thanks for hanging out today. Having a lot of fun this morning, answering your guys' questions. I am an HR professional, says Z, and recently launched a consulting business. I love it. Is this a service I can sell to the government? I've worked for a prime contractor as an employee of the prime contractor. So Z, that's a good question, and kudos to you for launching your consulting business. And I would dare say that you kind of already answered your own question. What do I mean by that? Well, you're saying that I worked for a prime contractor. So that means I worked for somebody who has a government contractor. I worked for somebody who has a government contract, rather, with an agency is contracted out to staff these skills that I'm currently doing in consulting. So if you're asking if this is something that you can do, it's definitely something you can do, because it's something the company that you're working for or worked for is doing, and it's the same exact space, because it's what your job is, and it's what the services your business is offering, consulting, right? So I would take it a step further and say you're even more advantaged. You can use this even more to your favor, to your strategy, because you were the contracted one. You've done this work. So now you can use any work that you performed on the contract as a contractor, and then bring that as experience to your consulting business. Think about that. I mean, think about if you wanted to go after the same contract and compete with whoever was the prime, if you wanted to, whether you want to burn bridges, or whether, you're still working with them, or I don't know the arrangement, the dynamics of it. But just in terms of what you could do, you could certainly go after that contract again and be like, hey, I was that contracted employee. I did all this stuff. I know the government systems. I know exactly how this work is being performed. I was the one who did it. Let me go after that under my own consulting company, right? You can absolutely leverage and use any work that you yourself has done as a contracted employee, also known as a contractor in another light, a contractor employee. You can use that as your own business. So absolutely. And I love the thought. I think you're in the right headspace. You're already moving forward, opening your business and doing this. And then asking this question, it's just like, yeah, like you sure can. And I honestly think that you should. Now, the only caveat I will give you is that doesn't mean you get to skip to the head of the line. That doesn't mean any of the things that we've talked about so far today, like, doing the USA spending research, finding the agencies that buy the most of your NAICS codes, right? Doing your sam.gov research, doesn't mean you get to skip any of that, but it's just something that means you may go a little bit faster than others because you already have this stuff to sell, this experience to present. So I love it. Very, very good question. I'm glad that you asked that. Could that experience be used for my past performance? So yeah, I just saw this, but yeah, we just answered that. Absolutely, it could and it should be used for your previous experience and your past performance. One thing to note, guys, and I'm probably the biggest perpetrator of it all the time, but just so you know, there is a difference between past experience and past performance. And I'm not picking on you, Z. I'm picking on myself. So if you didn't know, this is just another takeaway for you. There's a difference between past performance and past experience. Even contracting gets them mixed up sometimes. So this is just, if you get this, you're advanced. It means you're getting like 103% in the class instead of 100. Like, this is just extra, okay? For most of you, large contractors, they know the difference because oftentimes it affects their proposals. But for small businesses and very small businesses, this is extra. Past experience means work that you've done in the past. So for, again, Z's example, working actually for the prime contractor, doing the work, staffed on the contract, performing consulting services. Z Hill has gained past experience that she can bring to her company, right? What is past performance? It's the same thing, right? No, it's actually not the same thing. Like I said, I say past performance all the time. I got to get better at it. Past performance now is how well you performed on the work. There's a fine line when it comes to proposal writing. There's actually quite a difference. So again, past experience is work that you've done. So it could be like, when you respond to this or you were giving information on it, it's the title of the job, the customer, the dates you performed it, the dollar range or the magnitude, a few sentences about the work that was performed. That's your past experience. Past performance is how well you did on the work. Usually the way this is answered is the government will give you some sort of ratings form. So it could be like exceptional, satisfactory, very good, or not so good or poor, right? So it's more of like a scorecard or a report card. How did you actually do? Okay, we know you did this job. We know you did consulting services, and it was, a contract for $150,000 per year, and it was for a base plus 2 option years, and you provided, executive coaching, and you provided organization management and other administrative tasks as well. Okay, we know you did that. You got that experience, but how good were you at doing that? That's the past performance. Did they like love you and you received 5 stars and glowing remarks? Or was it like this contract, we had to replace the person 3 different times because the contractor couldn't staff it with a adequate person? Okay, that would get you satisfactory or less on your rating. Okay, that would be past performance. So again, I know they're used synonymously, and I'm probably the worst perpetrator of it as well. But just as a learning point, if anybody asks you the difference between past experience and past performance, one is the work you did, and then the other is how well you did on that work. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Matt says they want kosher goods delivered. Okay, so this is coming back to Matt's question from earlier. They want kosher goods delivered to the prison in Indiana 14 days after the bid is won. Okay, so 14 days is one of those options that I said would probably, they would require you to deliver within. Do I need past performance? You only need past performance if they're asking for it. If they're not asking for it, which most often happens, Unison Marketplace is not asking for it. They're not asking for it. You don't need it. Don't worry about it. Focus on what they do need. Focus on what they do want. It has to arrive as one shipment, and it's a large order. Do I need insurance on the goods? All this information, Matt, is basically in the contract. So if they need you to have general liability insurance, they put that in the solicitation. So just read it. Now, if I were you and I was operating a business, every business should have some sort of general, liability insurance, right? In case something, bad happens. And you also probably want to make sure you're operating under some protected type entity, like, an LLC, as a sole proprietor, you can still operate a business, but all of your personal stuff is exposed. So if somebody wants to come after you or sue you, they can take your house. If you have an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or whatever, I'm not giving you recommendations. I am not your lawyer or your tax accountant or whatever, but make sure you're protected with some sort of entity structure, and also consider at least some basic insurance. Again, unless they're giving you some other specific that they're listing, you have to read and find that, because they will list the limits of insurance you have to have. They won't just say you have to have insurance. They'll say you have to have up $1 million, up to $1 million of coverage. So, these type of questions, you just got to read. And if it's not there, it's not there, right? If it's not there, it's not there. Is it okay? Okay. It looks like you guys are having a conversation. That's totally cool. For sure. Yeah. You guys do your thing. Guys, please interact and network. If you want to have side conversations going on, I can definitely wade through that. That's free. Networking, anything like that. You want to connect offline, go for it. I'm happy to facilitate that. I'm happy to see that. So Arthur says, yes, I have a painting company, but I also own a painting logistics company, and we are looking for companies that want to purchase paint at a lower price. They are getting now. Thanks. So yeah, I did see, I'm not going to go back to the example, but we did, I did see a few paint supplies contracts. So again, just go through the same example that we were looking at. And we would you'd definitely be able to, find something that's a fit for that. Kai says, I sell administrative consulting services. We spoke not too long ago. Yes, Kai, I actually do remember speaking with you. I thought that you sounded familiar, but now you have confirmed it, 541-611. Yes. So yeah, I know we have capability statements that would be a match for you. So that's awesome. Yep, right before shutdown. Exactly. Z says, wow, thanks for confirmation. I've been studying your videos for a month and light bulb went off because of you. Blessings. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad that it helps. That's what I'm doing this for. This is what I'm living for these days, is trying to get you guys to have light bulb moments, like you're saying here, Z, to have things click, to really build your confidence so that you can do something. Like today we talked about the capability briefings. Well, if you were thinking about doing that, well, maybe now you have confidence to do it. If you didn't even know that existed, well, maybe now it's something you can think about doing. And then after hearing this a few more times, you'll have enough confidence to do it. So it's all about taking these like baby steps, these little mini steps to get you guys to taking the right action, to get you guys headed in the right direction. Again, we're all at all different stages of the game, whether, we're thinking about doing this, or we're already doing this and we're stuck, or we just want to take things to the next level. We're at all different stages. The one thing we all have in common is that we can all take baby steps forward. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate, trying to remove blocks. If you're stuck, if you have anxiety, this is something that I talk about sometimes. If you have anything, mental that's going on and you're just afraid, you don't think you're good enough, or it can't work for you, or like whatever, guys, I totally get it. If there's anything holding you back, I want to help, let you know that this is something that you can do. It's just, it all starts out with having a business first, registering it at sam.gov second. That way, when you go to bid and market, this whole thing is bidding and marketing. Business is a numbers game, and it's also who you know. I don't think anybody would tell me I'm wrong. I think we all know the truth when we hear it. And if someone says business is a numbers game, they'd be like, yeah, to some extent. And if they said, business is a lot of who you know, they would say probably, yeah, to some extent. So when you put those things together with government contracting, you get bidding and you get marketing. Bidding is the numbers game. Right now, if you're active, you're putting numbers on the scoreboard. You're playing the numbers. How many bids are you responding to this week, this month? Because you're not going to win them all. And what was it? Wayne Gretzky, you're missing 100% of the shots you're not taking. So you're putting yourself out there to possibly be able to win. But then throughout the rest of the year, you're increasing the likelihood of yourself winning by building relationships, by going deep, by targeting, so that when these bids do come out, right, you're already deeper with these people. So now your chances go from, low 7% to winning to maybe 20 to 30% winning, because you've already had your capability briefing. This is a warm contact. They know you. You've stayed in contact with them for the last 6 months, and now you're bidding on something. They have a lot of faith in your company, and they're going to take that into consideration when they're actually reviewing your response, whether it's a quote or bid or an actual proposal response, whatever. They have that background information versus you just being random, flying in, right before the bid is due and just sending something off. And then they're like, who is this guy or who's this girl? They still have to treat you equal. They still have to evaluate you, but you don't have some of those intangible things built up like you would if you were playing the it's who you know game and using that to basically amp up and heat up your numbers game. So I hope that resonates with you guys. That's some of the best advice that I could give. It's who you know, and it's the numbers. All right. Z says, purchasing capability statements this weekend. You've definitely helped with my imposter syndrome and anxiety. Hey, that's awesome. I'm glad the capability statements can be help to you. And it's your first impression to the government. So you want to make sure you get things set off on the right foot. But even more importantly, yes, if we were able to help with that imposter syndrome, I know it's a thing, feeling like you're nothing and you're trying to go from 0 to 1. It's like you overcome that by taking personal inventory and saying, you know what, we all have something to stand on. None of us have 0. We've all done something. And then you build from there and you put things in the right frame. And it's like all of a sudden, the battle is halfway there. Having something like a capability statement definitely helps to bridge that gap. And then just knowing some of the, having a few intelligent things to say or, having a strategy that keeps you focused, it can really take you a long way, guys. You don't have to know all of it. You just have to have one or two strings that you play on, and it can really take you far. So I'm glad to hear that we made a change for you this morning, Z. Tay says, I have an S Corp, and I'm looking for grants first before I get a contract. For sure, Tay, we had another question earlier about grants. Grants and funding, it's not an area that I have really any expertise in, so there's not a lot that I can weigh into that. I think they have information on the website acquisition.gov if you want to check that out. But that's totally up to you to do more research. Also, depending on what type of industry you're in. But yeah, definitely do what you got to do. And again, certain businesses require more startup funding than others. So, everybody's on a case-by-case basis. And hello to Denzel Burton. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world today. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Guys, we have been live since 9 a.m. Central Time, and it's 11:21. So we are at about almost the 2.5 hour mark. My voice is starting to go, but I'm pretty happy with what we've been able to do and accomplish, and the questions that we've gotten today, and the people that we were able to interact with. I would like to do this again, soon. So if you guys like this, make sure you hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed to the channel and you're watching, and you want to show appreciation, or make this selfish. If you just want to get more videos like this, consider subscribing, to the channel, so that we know that you're here, and so you can see more stuff coming out in the future. Tay says, I'm into transportation, truck driving. Yep, that's definitely freight, trucking, logistics is something that's a hot niche that I've seen. A lot of small business owners are entering the GovCon space for this area. We even do have capability statements for that area, just to where did it go? Just to kind of again show you guys kind of like what's possible. I organize these CAPE statements as a way to even show you an umbrella of the type of things that the government does buy a lot of. So again, we've got the freight, trucking, and logistics capability statement, and you can like literally see. I'll zoom in as much as I can here. Like if you're wanting to do research or you're new or whatever, I put the information out there for you. Like if you don't want to purchase it and you don't want this, like it's fine. Like this is real information I put in here. Like I have 8 real NAICS codes for trucking and freight. So use this for your own selfish whatever you can do to help yourself. And if you want to like make your own CAPE statement or whatever, that's fine. Or if you do want, to purchase something like this, you can. But even the data is here. And then I have sample, I actually have sample contracts, real types of contracts that are samples to show you the type of work that the government buys in this type. And that's how all of the capability statements are laid out. So, I'm showing this to you so you can use it for your own selfish reasons, get actual data and research from these templates, because I show them to you exactly what they are. But yeah, so glad to have you, and that's definitely a good niche to go into. Sharona says, I will certainly catch this replay. Yes, for sure, Sharona. We covered a lot of good stuff. It is one that I would recommend that you start from the beginning. We basically hit the ground running about 2.5 hours ago. So definitely. Hey, awesome. Denzel has subscribed. Awesome. Glad to have you as a subscriber. Thanks for letting me know that you're appreciating the content. Yo-Yo says, oh no, I missed the live. Well, we're just about done here, I would say. My voice is about to go, but the replay is available. It is on the channel. 2.5 hours, like I said. So, you don't have to miss it. And if you got a question last minute, you can let me know here, guys. Matt says, thanks for all your help, GovKid. Hey, Matt, glad to see you this morning, and thanks for participating and engaging. Hopefully we were able to get some questions answered for you. Sharona says, where are these listed, please? I think Sharona's probably referring to the capability statements. So guys, I'll just go ahead. I haven't posted it. I'll just post it in the chat in case you wanted to check those out. That's also, what we're being sponsored by today. Like I said, it's a big part of my business and allows me to do things like this. So if you're ever in need or looking for CAPE statements in the future, The link is in the chat now. You can see that. Matt says, appreciate everything you do. We really love this chat question answer. It's really good info to improve. Thanks, Matt. And, you know, I'm going to try to find more time in the future to do these. Maybe even next Saturday. We'll see. I kind of go through bouts where I go live and then I stop. It's just because, like, I'm a one-man, you know, business like so many of you guys are, and it's a lot of things I have to focus on. So I would like to do more of these as well. Denzel says, do I have to be under an LLC to bid on different contracts? I worked in a lot of different fields. You don't have to have an LLC. I mean, you just have to have a business. So that becomes like a business question. Like I said, you can be a sole proprietor and legally have a business. You're not going to have legal type protection that an LLC or greater offers. So, you know, it's just kind of up to you on what you want to do with that. But no, you don't have to be an LLC to bid on contracts. For sure. Yeah, guys. So I think we're pretty much caught up on the chat here. Unless I missed anybody, let me know. But this has been fun. This has been a lot of fun. I'd like to do more in the future. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I'm probably going to try and spare the rest of my voice. And we'll probably call it here. So again, like the video if you haven't, subscribe to the channel. And you know, maybe next Saturday, what I'll do is I'll do a post. I'll do an actual post on the YouTube when I'm going to do the next live. So I would say check that out. And today I also blasted it out to the email list. So make sure you're getting emails from me. That way, you know, that's kind of where I notify and communicate 2 or 3 emails per week. It's kind of the best way to get me there as well. So yeah, guys, I think we'll call it here. Have a great weekend. Good job. Awesome participation. Loved seeing a lot of you guys from the video comments show up here on the live. It was a blast. Like I said, I was looking forward to this all week. And this, honestly, it exceeded my expectations for you guys showing up. I hope we got some value to you. I hope we got some questions. Hope a lot of you are able to move forward, take next steps. Hey, I hope you're amped. I hope you're geeked. I hope you believe that this is really something that you can do for yourself if you're wanting to. And us here as a channel and as a community are here to help you guys. So until next time, guys, we will see you very soon, and be blessed. Take care.